Man, so hopefully got some conversations going. We've just welcomed each other officially. Truth is, it would be in vain if we all welcomed each other but did not welcome God's presence here today. And so it doesn't matter if the pews are filled or if there are some empty. Truth is, God has something for us today. So if you will, we just want to just bow our heads and invite God's presence to be with us. Father in heaven, God, we are so grateful for the end of another week. We are so grateful that you love us unconditionally, that the God of heaven sits high, looks low, sees us, and that today you see our unique situations. You see everything that we are going through. And God, you have something specifically designed for us. You have a blessing with our name on it. And today we just want to lift our hands and say that we receive that blessing in Jesus' name. God, we give you permission to do what only you can do to transform our lives. We pray that Jesus will be lifted up. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Welcome. works. Prayer changes things. This morning as I was preparing for worship, I heard a song on the radio that took me to Romans 3 and 23. Can anyone tell me what that passage of scripture says? Romans 3:23. For all have fallen short. For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. The song was simply saying, I still believe what? God still hears a sinner's prayer. And it led me to know that I am still a sinner, yet I come here from Sabbath to Sabbath. I still fall short, but yet God still hears my prayers. So this morning, the focus on the family is the Warford family. Amen? And we all know the Warford family. There's Danny, the father, Twania, the mother, and all the children that come with them. Amen? But as I didn't get a chance to actually talk with Danny, but what came to my mind throughout the course of this week was the fact that they love their children. I'll say they love their children. Amen? And the first thing came to mind, I remember seeing on Facebook a picture with the Warford family, all out in California on the beach. And me, sometimes I think like, man, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, I do the math. But God never gives us more than we can handle, nor more than we can bear, amen? So when you see the Warfords, you know, I think about Austin Caleb as he sings. He closes his eyes, he just meditates. He's deep into the song. Then I look at Twania, how she spends time with each of her children, teaching them the love of God, implanting God in them. Amen? Amen. And I think of how they are just one big happy family. From Michael, the oldest. Amen? Amen. So prayer is something that keeps us connected with God. Prayer is something that keeps us connected with one another. Prayer is the thing that changes what's not quite right. Amen? This morning, so as we prepare to lift up the Warford family in prayer, I also extend the invitation to you to come to the altar for prayer. If there's something that took place in this week that you know that you didn't quite get right, God hears the prayers. If there's a spoken word that was not quite right, prayer reconnects all of them. In need of prayer. The words on the mantra saying, standing in the need of prayer. There's a song that says, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. So this morning as we've come, it's just an act of faith, an expression of our faith, saying, Lord, we know prayer works, and Lord, we are standing in the need of prayer. So I'm going to ask if we can hold hands, join hands, as much as possible. As you approach the throne of grace this morning. Almighty God, Lord, we come this morning. Lord, not because we're worthy, Lord, because we know just how important prayer is. Lord, we thank you, oh God, how you kept us throughout this week. Lord, have you been with us?
Lord, everything, Lord, that the enemy has thrown towards us, Lord, you've helped us to rise above it. Lord, you've kept us, Lord, in our homes as we slept comfortably. The angels protected. Father God, as we travel, many of our young people, Lord, graduated from high school, middle school, grade schools. And then, yet, Lord, you protected them. Lord, we just have so much to be thankful for. And Lord, this morning we come, Lord, giving you all the praise, honor, and glory that we can give. But our focus on the family, oh God, this morning is the Warford family. Lord, even though they're not here today, but we still want to stand in their stead and pray. Lord, we ask that you will be with Daniel as the priest, the head of the home. Father God, hold him up to be a man, Lord, that you called and created him to be. The Lord, that you will allow him, Lord, to lead his family in your footsteps. Father God, we pray for Tawani, the mother of the home. And Lord, in today's society, Lord, many homes are led by the mother. And so God, we just pray and ask, Lord, that she continue, Lord, to give them motherly love. That she continue, Lord, to teach them, Lord, of you. That as they grow older, that their own relationships, Lord, will grow deeper and deeper. And Lord, for the children, oh God, we pray and ask, Lord, that you will be with them. And Lord, as they grow and live and learn with one another, that they find love, togetherness, as children in the home. And so God, we just ask you a blessing, Lord, upon them and their families. And Lord, there are those of us, Lord, who are here this morning. And God, we're asking that you would do the same for us, that you would keep us close to you. And Lord, we ask, Lord, that you would be with the speaker of the hour this morning. Be with your manservant, our pastor. That, Father God, the words that he speaks, Lord, will be words from heaven, will be words from on high. The Lord, that will draw us closer to you and the King. We pray and ask these prayers, Lord, in Jesus' name.
Grateful
praise you, Lord. Flowing from my heart, is gratefulness.
grateful? Is anybody grateful? Is anybody grateful? Because I know for me, I could just sit and just reflect on how grateful I am. On how God keeps loving me. Keeps giving me new mercies. God is truly so grateful. And so we started with worship, and so we're going to end on praise, amen. So we flipped it up a little bit. And so this song just says that Jesus will do anything that he says he will do. Regardless of your situation, regardless of what you're facing, you got to believe that he will do it, amen. He will do it regardless of what you're looking at. Even if it doesn't seem like it may be, Jesus will, amen. Here we go.
family, God will do it. Only will. Watch him work. Oh, okay, I see I got some folks with me that have been through some stuff. Yeah. Sometimes all you just got to know, a part of your testimony is just he will. Some folks ask for an explanation. That I don't really know how it happened. I don't even know how he gonna do it. I just know that he will. Come on, you know what I'm talking about? Sometimes you can't even explain stuff and how it happens. And you just got to go back to the past, how God did it. And then you got to just tell your past and take your past with you to talk to your present and your future. Just say, look, he will. He will. Ain't gonna be no manual, no how-to, no 1, 2, 3 steps. Just know that he will. If you don't mind, just turn to your neighbor in case your neighbor didn't catch it in the song. Just say, hey, he will. Turn to your other neighbor and say, don't trip. He will. He will. He will. He will. Amen. Fired up. That's right. If you ain't fired up after he will, I don't know what will do it for you. Y'all better stop playing around today. Y'all better stop. Need you to be on your best behavior. Amen. But it's so good to see everybody today. Everyone looking so good on this Memorial Day weekend. So I hope that you've had a good week. Even if you haven't had a good week, I know a couple things that are worthy of celebrating. Sometimes I've learned that even when things aren't going the way I want them to in my life, sometimes I just got to shift my perspective, stop making it about me, and celebrate what God is doing around me, the accomplishments that happen. And so just a couple things I just want to highlight. In the midst of this season, it's the end of May, it's graduation season. So I know some folks, everybody glad that school is over. So my students, pray y'all that y'all glad school year is either over or just about to be over. And we've had some graduates that are in our midst. And I don't really like putting people on blast, but I do believe in supporting our own, building them up, affirming them, and celebrating their accomplishments. So if I got any graduates, if y'all just want to just wave your hand real quick, we just want to just celebrate our graduates. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. You wasn't shy. We had to do all that work. You want to celebrate this thing. Y'all, matter of fact, when y'all stand to y'all feet, we just want to put our hands together for our graduates. Please let me call you by your name. Amen. And if you didn't graduate, we still just want to celebrate that you made it to the end of another school year. We really believe in pouring into our own, and we got Sister Tori back all the way from the East Coast. Welcome back home. So good to see you. Out there doing big things at Cornell. Sorry if I'm telling all your business. We didn't have this previous conversation. I'm going to go ahead and tell everybody your business though. She's at Cornell. She's doing her thing as an Ivy League school. Okay? So we hope that you had a good first year. We're glad that you made it back home. And we know you're going to continue to do big things and make the family proud. And so I really just want to get into the word today. Is that all right with y'all? Y'all came to hear a word from the Lord. Real quick, if you would just turn to the book of Mark. If you've been with us the past couple of weeks, that's kind of where we've been hanging out in Mark's gospel. I do believe that sometimes it's okay just to stay in a certain portion. Sometimes we move a little too fast and we miss some of the important things, some of the essentials. And so sometimes it's just good to just sit in the text and just really get what God is saying. I thought I'd have more than one amen, but it's all right. So we're just going to turn to the 5th chapter of Mark's gospel. This is a familiar passage to some. 2 weeks ago, I spoke on the first half of Mark 5. We were talking about, you don't really know me like that. The truth is, we come to church, but usually we do church one day a week, but we live real lives outside the church. We work with people. We have families. We sometimes have a different personality. Somebody knows what I'm talking about. You got your church you, and then you got the you when you with your friends. You got the you in the group chat, the you on Snapchat. Okay. You got the you when you're talking to your spouse. We got, sometimes we wrestle with these different I's, these different yous. And the truth is we've learned to kind of just master this kind of deceptive art. As long as we can play the part for about 2 hours, we're good. I can mask up enough energy to make it seem like I'm fine. I can say happy Sabbath. I can stand up, clap my hands. But we really wrestle throughout the week. So I just wanted to just share a little bit and just say, really, at the end of the day, all of us got monsters inside of us. We're all capable of doing some ugly things. So we spent a little time just saying, look, you don't really know me like that. And then last week, Elder Kasupa gave us a word from Mark chapter 4. Talked about how God can steal the winds and the waves and the power that God has. And I kind of just want to keep us in that. In Mark chapter 5, I want to go back to the second half of this chapter. If you will, stand to your feet as we look at verse 21. I hope you don't mind reading the word of God. Mark chapter 5, and starting at verse 21. It's actually going to start very familiar, like the previous chapters. It says, when Jesus had crossed over again in the boat to the other side, a large crowd gathered around him. If I can just stop there parenthetically, Jesus, people love to be around him. If your Christianity is about excluding other people and folks don't want to be around you, maybe you are not acting like Jesus. Jesus had an attractive personality. He didn't have to beg folks. He didn't have to plead with folks. There was something that he possessed. There was a way that he talked to people. There was a way that he engaged that was sincere. He wasn't trying to get anything from anybody. He wasn't trying to get over on folks. Jesus just had some about himself that people like to be around. Sometimes the reason folks won't be around us, we think, we want to blame the devil, but sometimes it's as simple as putting a breath mint in your mouth. Come on, somebody. Come on. It's the simple things. It's the little things. But I'm going back to the text, so this is what verse 22 says. It says, one of the synagogue officials named Jairus came up and on seeing him fell at his feet. Must have been a way that Jesus carried himself because he hasn't even introduced himself yet. And it says that Jairus implored, basically he begged Jesus at the top of his lungs and probably with tears in his eyes. He says, as fathers, if you're with me in the congregation, he says, my little daughter is at the point of death. Please come and lay your hands on her. Anybody know that God has power? He has healing hands. Just a touch from him will make everything all right. He says, if you would just lay your hands on her so that she will get well and live. And get this, Jesus actually went off with him. Can I just tell you that in life, that God will not be distant from you. He'll actually walk with you to the destination of your healing. He's not a distant God. He's going to walk with you. He could have just stopped and just told what it's going to be, how it's going to work out. We already know that he will. But how many of you know that he will walk? Okay. So then it says in verse 24, he went off with him and a large crowd was following him. And pressing in on him. Verse 25, it says, a woman who had a hemorrhage for 12 years and had endured much at the hands of many physicians, has spent all that she had and was not helped at all, but rather had grown worse. Stay with me, verse 27 says, after hearing about Jesus, she came up in the crowd behind him and touched his cloak, for she thought, if I just touch his garments, I will what? I will be made whole. Can you just skip down to verse 34 with me? It says, and he, Jesus, said to her, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your affliction. I got any people here that need to be made whole at some point in your life? Things ain't just working all the way. You just need a touch from Jesus, a word from Jesus. You need him to put some things back together that may be falling apart. Well, if that's you, I got a word for you today. We just want to just talk under the topic for a few moments. Make room for the interruption. Make room for the interruption. If you just turn to your neighbor real quick, two neighbors if you will, say stay tuned. Turn to your other neighbor and say an interruption is on the way. You may be seated.
Come on.
It doesn't take long to find out that life will throw you curveballs. If you just look into the average week, most of us find ourselves planning our week if you are a planner. But somehow life always reminds us that it has its own agenda for us. You know you can start the week with however you want to get things done, things that you want to get accomplished. But somehow usually around Tuesday, things start to shift, they start to change. Monday mania, when things are just crazy, you struggling to get to work on time, you struggling just to get up out of the bed and just get the week started. But the truth is, usually by that midweek stretch, there's this thing called an interruption, where you have your agenda laid out, you know how things are gonna go, but life just has a way of tapping you on the shoulder and says, I got something else planned for you. We know about interruptions. The truth is, we don't really like interruptions. If you're watching TV, if you watch cable, I usually stream my stuff. Brother can't pay for cable like that. 500 channels and I only watch 3. You feel me? Anybody feel me? And so I just want to bless God for Netflix, Hulu. Okay, all right. Amen. YouTube. Ain't paying for the YouTube Red though. No thanks. I click it every time. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I'm good. Even when you watch TV, usually if you're watching a show and there's a flood warning, there's some weather that's about to take place that's not inclement, there's something that's going to flash across your screen. It's going to make that annoying noise, and then it's going to show you flood, flash warnings, tornado watch, tornado warning in certain areas, in certain counties, and it throws off your program. You were just trying to chill and enjoy your TV show because you work hard. You just want to relax. You just want to break. But what just came up? An interruption. Or maybe when you're driving and you in your lane and you doing the speed limit because you're not like the other St. Louis drivers that don't stop at the red lights and the stop signs. You actually are a law-abiding citizen. But there comes a point sometimes where people are driving and you got to question, how did they get their license? Because they don't put on their blinkers. They don't give you any signal. They just merge over into your lane without any notice, without any heads up. But you were just minding your own business and they cut you off. And you wanted to cut them personally and physically. That was because you were interrupted. Yeah, interruptions. There's some folks, you ever been in a conversation with someone and y'all were having a good conversation and all of a sudden somebody stepped into the Kool-Aid and didn't know your flavor? You know, sometimes you got to remind folks this is an A and B conversation. See your way about this thing. But folks just have a way, and you know folks can be a little nosy, and so they get all into your business, but you don't know, I wasn't even talking to you. This conversation had nothing to do with you, but they took it upon themselves to join into the conversation, gave themselves a personal invite. That's what I call an interruption. So life has a way of interrupting us. We've all been victims of interruptions. And that doesn't even stay to us because the text actually tells us Jesus has been interrupted. If you look at what it's saying, he's gotten off the boat. It's an ordinary Sunday, if you will. The day is really nice. It's chill. He's teaching on the boat. And the Bible says that as he's getting off, there's a man that runs to him. And this man is Jairus. And Jairus is not any old man. Any just regular 9-to-5 brother. He actually is a man of power. He's a man of influence. When he walks on the street, they know him. Big J, J Money, J Smooth. Jairus is that dude in the area. And get this, Jairus, even with all of his piety, even with all of the clout that he has, you got to understand this, he still finds himself in need. Because I got any folks out there that knows that you can still have power, you can still have influence, you can still have money, but at the end of the day, that stuff will never fully satisfy. They say money can't buy everything. Somebody said, I'd rather cry in a Lambo, though. But at the end of the day, you can have everything. You can work so hard and still be empty, still be unfulfilled. And perhaps that's what really gets us, because some of us are deceived and distracted by the things that we see, and we think that the more that we have, the more we can put in our pockets, the more we can fill our homes up with. Maybe if we have more people, we get more popular, whatever it is, we move up on the economic ladder, it's going to make us, it's going to fulfill us. But you got to know that those are some of actually the most frustrated people in life, because you can have more only to realize somebody else always has more than you. And so then it becomes this endless pursuit to kind of keep up, and now all of a sudden your worth is connected to the latest trend. And so Jairus humbles himself and he runs to Jesus. Get this, and the Bible says he kind of puts himself on blast. He begins to cry out and he says, Jesus, my daughter is at the point of death. please come and lay your hands on her. And this is what I love about Jesus. This is what really excites me, because in life there are times where you can't be comfortable. There are times where things are going wrong and you can't just keep it to yourself. You can't fake it no more. You about to lose your mind. You about to lose control. You tired of keeping that, because the truth is, to have pain and try to hold it to yourself, that gets tiring. That gets exhausting. You got to get tired of having those fake smiles, but you know in your mind you're still troubled. And Jairus actually gives us a lesson. He lets us know that sometimes you got to come out of your comfort zone in order to get that which you really need. And I'm so glad that Jairus knows the source. He runs to Jesus, and what I really love about Jesus is Jesus actually walks with him. Jesus never shows himself to be too busy. He's not preoccupied. He's not concerned with who's trying to hit him up, because get this, there's actually a crowd around him. There are other people talking. I'm sure there are folks running up to Jesus trying to get his attention. Yo, I just need this real quick. If you could just touch my elbow real quick, player, that thing hurts real quick. Well, actually, Jesus, actually I'm trying to holler at this girl, but I don't really know what to say. If you can just give me a couple smooth lines, because I was wondering how you was talking on that boat. You was smooth, brother. Just tell me how I can holler at an old girl real quick. Jesus has all of this, but he's never distracted. And he stops, and the crowds are amazed because he walks with the man. But that's really what Jesus is about. That's really what the Christian faith is about. It's not running to Jesus to get what you can get in your time of need. It's not running up to him and using him like an ATM just to get your life fixed and to get your stuff in order. Really, the Christian life, if you were to boil it down, it's about Jesus walking with you and you walking with Jesus. Yes, sir. Amen. So he's walking step by step, and then all of a sudden, there's an interruption. Because the Bible says that the scene switches, and there's this woman. We don't even know her name. All we know is what's wrong with her. And sometimes that's how we do, folks, in life, right? We don't even know their name. We just know what's wrong with them. We just see the externals. We just see the labels. We see what they don't do. We see what they struggle with. And this is what Mark actually takes this to. Mark has to be challenged a little bit as well, because he's a part of a society that has not learned how to appreciate women. They can't appreciate women. And so she just has this label. She's just this sick woman who's been bleeding, has a hemorrhage for 12 years. Imagine it, if you will, being sick for 12 years. Some of us can't even handle a cold too good. I remember growing up, I used to be sick. I thought that was going to get me, a day off from school. That was going to give me a little break. I was going to get a chance to chill. And I remember my mother, she had this remedy, and she was like, well, you sick? I said, yeah, you kind of make it worse a little bit. Some of y'all know when you call up from your job, you ain't really that sick. You hype it up a little bit. I'm telling on somebody. It's all right, though. It's going to be time to repent later. But I remember I was sick, and I'm like, Mama, I'm not feeling too good. You try to make the voice raspy. I'm not feeling too good. I don't think I'm going to be able to make it to class. Mathematics is going to have to wait today. I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. We'll go upstairs. It's going to be all right. When I call you down, I got something for you. So I'm thinking she's finna tell me everything is good. I done went upstairs later. I kicked my shoes off. I went and got into my good, comfortable clothes. I was just going to lay down and watch Power Rangers. Y'all remember Power Rangers? Yeah, come on now. Everybody wanted to be the Black Ranger, the Red Ranger. So I was going to sit down and just chill, watch me a little Power Rangers. Then after that was going to be this show called Double Dragon. And then there was just other shows. I had it all lined up and planned out. You with me, Jonathan? And then I remember she called me downstairs, and here's what I'm thinking. I said, well, my mother loves me. Surely she knows that her son is sick. She was going to make that bowl of cream of wheat that I really like it, how I love it, real smooth with no lumps in that thing. And she was going to call me downstairs. We were going to sit down, eat, and everything was going to be Gucci. We great. We good. And she called me downstairs, and I remember seeing this bottle on the counter. I didn't see the cream of wheat. This bottle, and I couldn't really read the label, but it was too late for me to actually run away. So I began to just walk slowly, pacing every step, and then she had the spoon laid next to the bottle, so it was for you. So she said, here, just take a little bit of this. Any kids, you always ask questions. Ain't nothing wrong with asking questions. I was like, what's this? She said, it's Robitussin. I said, who? She said, Robitussin. She gave me 2 teaspoons of that thing, and that thing just burned as it go down. You thought it was just nasty. And then I ain't had no juice to drink it down with or nothing. I just had to just thug it out right there on the spot. And she gave me this whole thing. I'm like, what in the world am I going to do with this? And here I am thinking that like I'm good, right? That it was going to fix it. Everything was all right. But it really wasn't. And the truth is, I couldn't even get through a cold, but understand this is what I want you to get. The Bible says that this woman has been sick for 12 years. She wakes up day after day. She's hoping that she's going to get better. She's hoping that things will be changed. I don't know if maybe she tried. Some scholars have said that she even went to doctors to actually get better. And some of the superstitions that they had back then is that if you would drink the juice of an ostrich egg, it would actually heal remedy. So she probably went to some soothsayers and some magicians. She tried everything that she can. Don't make your face up because I'm about to get at you in a second. But the truth is she was trying everything. She went to doctors, and the Bible says that instead of getting better, she got worse. Now I know that you would judge this woman because you would never drink the egg of an ostrich yolk. But yet some of us in desperate situations have done things that we swore we never would do. We've gone to places we swore we never would go. We've made decisions, we've yielded, we've compromised in areas that we know that we shouldn't have just because things didn't change on our timetable. The truth is, it's a part of all of us. We will compromise in one way or another after time. And perhaps that's the true testament of faith. It's not so much what you go through, but how long you go through. Because if you really think about the times you've been hurt, you think about the times you've been upset with God, it wasn't so much of what happened, it was how long God allowed it to happen. You've always questioned His timing. That's what really gets us. And really that's us in the text, is because all of us have tried other things. And the truth is, at some point, you will always get worse and not get better if your source is found in anything outside of God Himself or what He provides. And so get this, right? I just want you to follow me real quick. We're really going to get into the meat of this. It says, get this. After hearing about Jesus, she came up in the crowd behind Him and touched His cloak. For she thought, if I just touch His garment, I will get well. Turn to your neighbor real quick. Say, stay tuned. Stay tuned. Here comes the good part. Now get this, she is a woman in this society. Get this, they were all relegated to being second-class citizens. That's why she's not mentioned by name. And so she, as a woman, could be divorced for something as simple as burning her husband's food. He could just dispose of her. If he woke up one day and felt like, this really ain't the one for me, I actually found someone else at the marketplace in Jerusalem, she's a little better than you, I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of you. He had that option, and there would be no one to challenge that as a man. So she get this, she has no security, and then on top of that, she's sick, and according to the Levitical law, she's an outcast. No one can touch her, because if they touch her, then they too are unclean. And so she really has no way to actually get to Jesus. She can't walk up like Jairus. And sometimes we've relegated people in the church to second-class citizens. They can't really get access to Jesus because they don't know enough yet. They haven't studied the prophecies long enough. They got to change a couple of things first before they get to Jesus. Please don't be fooled into thinking that some of the stuff that happens in the world doesn't creep over into the church, where we have classism too. Sometimes there are only certain people relegated to certain blessings, or you got to fall in line first, or maybe you ain't old enough to serve in the church first. You ain't proved yourself yet. The truth is, there is no classism in the body. It's only sinners and sinners. Everybody was waiting for that second class. Like, oh, that's me. I ain't no sinner. No, you a sinner. It's sinners and sinners. There is no classism. And the truth is, if we're really talking about it, sometimes being around people who aren't like us makes us uncomfortable. We don't know what to do. We don't know how to have a conversation. We don't even know how to speak. All you got to do is say hello, introduce yourself, here's my name. We've sometimes made it complicated to interact with folks. And sometimes we just got to go to where Jesus does, and He just stops and listens. Maybe that's the thing that we need to have, is because a lot of us are quick to talk, but very slow to listen. You ever told somebody something, you were talking to them, and then you just say, what did I just say? They, you know, when, Or you ever been in class, and maybe you were joking around, and the teacher explained this hard algorithm. Please, students, don't ever mess up in math class. That's the worst time. You can do it in reading. If everybody's reading, and then like they call on your name, they try to do a surprise thing, y'all remember that? You gotta pick up where you left off. You good, because all you can just hit your boy, hey, what was the last word he said? Are we on that line? Okay, cool. But if you in math, and they going over some type of equation and some formula, and they ask you to solve for X, you stuck. You real stuck on that one. You ain't gonna know what you, you want to carry the 1 and take it by the 2. And then when you put 2 times 5, that's gonna give you 10. What time we get out here? What time is this class over? You ever been in one of those moments, right? The truth is, get this though, the key to life that really made Jesus so effective and made people love Jesus is that he wasn't always so quick to speak. He was willing to listen to folks. He was willing to hear their sorrows and what they were going through. And that's what makes Jesus a true friend, is he's one that will listen to you. And I gotta say this, that sometimes God is gonna make it a little uncomfortable. Our churches should sometimes be a little uncomfortable. If I will, I gotta just say, our churches should smell like weed a little bit. I see some stones ready. It's cool. I've been working on it. I can dodge them. Some folks, the church should smell like weed. It should smell like alcohol. It shouldn't just smell like cologne and perfume. If that's the case, I know I'm just preaching to the choir. I know it's just us all the time, and we not bringing new folks in. Now, some of y'all still looking at me crazy, so let me give it to you this way. Back when I was at Oakwood, I came up with this. Literally, I woke up one day and I told my room, I said, you know what, man? I'm about to be vegetarian. This whole Oakwood campus vegetarian experience is getting to me. I think this is the way. I think I found some new light. So I ain't finna eat no more fried chicken, I'm good on that. He looked at me like I was crazy. He like, oh, nah, bro, like you really need this chicken in your life. It's protein. That's what we all say, right? It's protein. It's protein. So I was like, nah, man, I'm good. You can get protein. I started doing research. You know when you go to school, you kind of get educated. You know what I'm saying? Like you start, I'm just gonna Google real quick. So I was like, nah, I can eat black beans. I can eat all these other stuff. This protein, right? And so I was cool. First month went by, sister one, I was straight. I was Gucci. It was good. I was eating hot Cheetos every day, but I wasn't eating chicken. So 1 month goes by, 2, 6 months. I'm on a whole year. I have not had any chicken. I mean, like, I'm on it. You tell me I'm tripping. I'm on it. Like, I'm feeling good about myself. And you know, sometimes when we make these little goals, all of a sudden, we look down on other folks, right? So I remember seeing folks eating chicken. Get that out your hand. Don't you know what they make that out of? You know, that's how we be sometimes, right? And so get this, one time, being in college, you're broke. So we living off of ramen and Pop-Tarts. And Hawaiian Punch when we could afford it. Everybody put $1 together. We just get the big jug. I remember they had this thing, and some of y'all probably don't even know about this because y'all eat real balanced diets. My friends would go to this place called Wingstop. Y'all ain't never been there before. Y'all don't know nothing about the honey lemon peppers. Y'all don't know nothing about that. But we went to this place called Wingstop, and the reason my boys would go to Wingstop is because we were tired of the cafeteria food, and so they were like, hey, we're just gonna go out on Tuesday because they have 40-cent wings. It makes sense, you get the special. And so I remember going to get the 40-cent wings, and I'm not eating them. I'm just sitting there like, well, Carl, just come through, man, like you can get, they give us celery and carrots with it. You can just have that. So for the first couple visits, I'm literally eating celery, carrots, and I'm drinking lemonade. And I was content. And get this is what I want to say, because some of y'all looked at me crazy when I made this comment. I remember when I would leave Wingstop, I hadn't eaten Wingstop, but then my boys had came up with this other thing because Pizza Hut started doing 50-cent wings on Wednesday. So it wasn't just Tuesday, it's Tuesday and Wednesday I got to fight through. And I remember I would go to Pizza Hut, I would go to Wingstop just to hang out with the boys, just to chill, just for the fellowship, or maybe just to watch the game. And I would leave, and I remember as I would get back to the dorm room, I would still smell like chicken. I said, isn't that interesting? I walked into the place, I have not touched a wing. I watched everybody else, but yet I still smelled like where I came from, even though it was foreign to me. And can I just say real quick, if you don't mind, shouldn't that be the way it is when people come to our churches? They can come as they are, smell like they are, but when they leave, they ought to have a different scent to them. There ought to be a different vibe. They didn't know nothing about no Jesus and they really heard, but when they left the church, they said, these Christian folks know how to love. These Christian folks cool. They all right. They actually introduced themselves. I made a couple of friends. The truth is, folks should come to church the way that they are, and they should leave with an impression of Jesus Christ because of his followers. That's cool. I know only 3 people gonna clap. That's fine. I'm gonna still say it all that I want to, because that really is the truth. People should come as they are and leave challenged and inspired, not condemned and criticized. And so part of that interruption is that's a part of your theology, and that's how you do Christianity. Let me interrupt that with how Jesus lives, and maybe you need to check your facts. So, peep this, the woman hasn't even heard of Jesus. Haven't even seen it, it just says that she heard. And that was enough for her to follow. Now this is what really gets me, because there's power in hearing about someone. Have you ever been told something about someone before you ever met them, and it changed how you interacted with them when you saw them? Yes. All it took was for someone to say something about that individual, whether it was true or not, and all of a sudden, get that becomes the lens by which you see that person. So I can tell you, I said, man, look, I was hanging out, and I saw TJ, man. I came into church, Lighthouse, and I went to go use the bathroom, because I drink a lot of water, and I saw him in there. He said, what's up? And he was using the bathroom too, but when he left, he didn't even wash his hands. Now, if I said it publicly, right, and TJ go, come here real quick. And TJ, look, he look all smooth, look all cool, H&M model swag with the dyed tips on them. I ain't mad at you, player. Flex one time. Now, TJ, I just want you to go. If I told you that about TJ, and TJ goes and try to shake your hand, go shake some hands. How would you treat him? Yeah, exactly. You gonna get that quick wave. Go ahead and shake somebody else and go. Yeah, you gonna get that head nod. Somebody else, go find somebody else. Yeah, real quick. All of a sudden it feels weird, but look, there was no way to verify if my man washed his hands or not. You didn't see it, but what happened? You heard. There's power in hearing, and there's a natural law to hearing, is that it works 2 ways. You can hear good things that will pull you to somebody, or you can hear false information that will push them away. And everything that you hear ain't real. Some of it's fake news. You gotta watch out for that fake news, because that can really actually interrupt and create false realities. And that's usually sometimes what creeps into the church, and that's why you got these cliques and you got tribes, because this person does this and this person's like that, and I heard this about this individual. Did you see? Girl, I ran into them on Wednesday, and let me tell you what they had on. They still had them earrings on. You know how long they've been in the church? You know how long they've been doing this? I can't believe. You see what they posted online? Did you hear what they were listening to? Sometimes all it takes is just to hear, and that person's reputation never recovers. And I wonder if we were to flip the script, the type of reputation Jesus has because of the things that people have heard about his followers. But that's a sermon for another day. I really want to go back to the interruption, because this is where the scene is about to get crazy. She says to herself, if I would just touch the hem of his garment. Everybody just raise your hand out real quick for a touch. She says, if I would just touch the hem of his garment. After hearing about him, she says, I will be made whole. And I get this. This really is based, I want you to understand this. This whole touching the hem of a person's garment is based in superstition. It's based in a pagan ritual, a pagan culture, that if you touch a person, their powers would transfer to you. Isn't that sometimes how I remember growing up, I love wearing J's, Jordan, if y'all know what those are, I love wearing J's. And I remember thinking that if I wore J's, I was going to be able to hoop like Mike. So I remember being in the backyard with my boy Courtney, who was my next door neighbor, and we didn't have the real official goal, don't judge, we had the Fisher Price. And so what we would do with the Fisher Price, it's for like younger kids, but we were like 11. They're dunking, doing windmill stuff we saw. And so when we got to a point, it's like we too tall for this, so we would raise it up to the max level. And then kind of be hanging over a little bit because it was like off the fringes. And then you just put a couple bricks. Come on now, somebody. I got a couple good folks in here. Come on. Come on now. Don't act all brand new. You would put the bricks on the end of the thing so it wouldn't fall over. And we'll be out there crossing each other up, playing 21, dunking, all this stuff, right? Because here's the thing, we thought if we had the J's on, if we had what Mike wears, it was going to make us be like Mike. And that's all that we really wanted. And I found out really like in the second game when I got dunked on that the shoes didn't really help. I needed to practice some more. Now here's what I want you to see. I don't want you to miss this blessing right here because the woman comes to Jesus with a superstitious belief. And Jesus still blesses her.
Right.
She didn't have all the facts, didn't have all the truth. She had the most important thing. She had the person. And let me just say to some folks right now, who you may come into a church and you feel a little intimidated. Well, I don't know as much as everybody else knows. I don't know. When they asked about Romans 3:23, I couldn't fill in those blanks. All I know is John 3:16. The truth will get there. The information is going to be there. You need to get to the person who's a source of transformation. Because all of us are still growing in our knowledge of God. We just got to keep our eyes on him. It shouldn't be no competition about who knows the most. This ain't no game show. This is life. And Jesus will take whatever little bit of information you have about him. He will latch himself on with you. And he will walk with you and talk with you and teach you when, where, and how he wants you to grow. I ain't saying there's nothing wrong with growing, but I got to let you know there's a process to it. And sometimes we rush the process because our end goal is information when God's end goal has always been transformation. Because a thief on the cross only knew one thing. He was finna die, and he needed somebody to save him. And all he said, he looked over at Jesus and said, hey, please don't leave me hanging. No pun intended. He just said, don't leave me hanging. Jesus said, I got you. And if you can say that to yourself in life as you go throughout your week, God, please don't leave me hanging. I can't do this thing by myself. You know what he's going to say to you every time? I got you. I'm going to walk with you. I can't make the right decision. I keep following myself in the same thing. Just don't leave me hanging. He says, I got you. Just keep your eyes on me. Stay with me. I got you.
Yes, Jesus. Yes, it is.
I'm about ready to wrap this thing up, but what I really love is she actually gets a touch of Jesus. I don't know if you can see it. She can't walk into the crowds because she would be exposed. And so she's kind of got to do a little stealth mode thing. Just sit there and play it real cool. Jesus is walking, and she's got to keep her eyes on him. She don't want to be put on blast. So she just got to sit there. Hey, how you doing, sister? All right, great work. I ain't coming for you. Got to keep it moving. And she keep going, hey, play, what's going on? Yo, what's good with you? I ain't seen you in a minute. Yeah, everything all right? Cool. Yeah, everything all right? Hey, but I ain't even really come here for you, play. I'm trying to get to this man Jesus real quick. And she has this strategic way that she's going to get to Jesus. And this is what I love. She doesn't let anything stop her from getting to Jesus. And sometimes that's what really gets some of us, is we're too intimidated by the crowd. We're too intimidated about people who are in the way. And we're trying to figure out how we going to move and how we going to maneuver. But this is what I love about Jesus. Here is my personal belief, is that Jesus actually used the crowds to let the woman get her blessing. He know if he told the crowds to get away, you know Jesus don't have a problem dismissing crowds. He did that a couple chapters before. He lets the crowd stay this time because there was somebody in the midst of a blessing. And sometimes what you see as a barrier is actually what God is using to help you get to your blessing. But that means you might have to do a little dirty work. You might have to look a little crazy. You might have to have a vision you holding on for a minute, and you can't tell to everybody because they're not going to affirm it. They're not going to understand. And sometimes you just got to keep stuff to yourself. You're going to feel like you're going crazy. You're going to have to stand up and worship and make some noises that some folks don't understand. It ain't going to sound right. It may not be on key, but that's your story. That's your journey. Sometimes, get this, you can't fit in no box and follow Jesus at the same time.
Come on, man.
So she follows him, and I don't really know how this plays and pans out, but at some point Jesus allows the crowd to perhaps slow down. She sees this as her moment. Because remember, he's still on his way to Jairus' house, and she reaches out and touches the hem of his garment. And if you just use your imagination, I wonder what that felt like. Because it says that instantly she became whole. I don't know, all of a sudden, the hemorrhage of all of a sudden, the body just knew how to work. And when it touched her, it said, wait, this ain't no regular physician. This ain't no regular doctor. He ain't got no degrees, but he created everything. I recognize this touch. I recognize this power. And the body just began to just act right. It just started to function. And Jesus' power actually spoke to dysfunction and told dysfunction it must now turn into function. And so everything just started to heal up in her body. And immediately she began to be made whole. And this is what I love about Jesus. He could have did one or two things. He could have just walked away, kept it moving, and never stopped. But the text tells us, stay with me, that Jesus actually stops, turns around, asks a question. Sometimes I read and I'm like, Jesus, you be asking some dumb questions. No real talk. Like, you go to a man who's been sick for 38 years. You don't just go to him and like, hey, you want to feel healthy? You want to be better? Like, what you mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, somebody came in here right now, look, you need $1 million. Everybody, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, Jesus asks these type of questions like, I know you sick, but you don't really want to get better, do you? What? Yeah, of course I want to get better, right? Like, he stops, he looks her in her eyes, and I'm sure she's scared. I'm sure she's trying to figure out, I don't even know him like that. She doesn't know he's Jesus. Get this. We know he's Jesus, so we're okay with it. We're ready to have a conversation. She doesn't know it's Jesus, so she doesn't know if she's going to be put on blast or not. He looks at her, stares at her. You getting uncomfortable, ain't you? He's like, oh, no. Never had another man just look me in my eyes like that. Stares at her. He's still staring. And then you know what happens. You ever been in a place where somebody stops and stares at something, and then everybody else stares too, right? So now all of a sudden everybody else is staring at him. All of a sudden everybody else, come on now, we all staring. And then Jesus says, who touched me? What? The disciples, I'm with them because they like, what do you mean? Who touched you? You got all these people around you. Everybody's. The way that Mark paints it in the Greek is that Jesus can't even move side to side because he's stuffed and he's suffocated. I mean, like, folks are stepping on his toes and like that elbowing each other. It's that type of crowd. But here's why Jesus asked that question. Yeah. Please don't miss this. Yeah. If you think about it, there's a crowd around him. Everybody's touching him. She touches him. Why is she the only person that leaves healed that day? If all it took was a touch. Here's why. Because everyone that touches God is not in touch with God.
Woo, man. Come on, man.
Translation, everybody that's near, that's close, that comes to church, that sings, that does all these other things, can hold positions in the church. Just because you're touching him, you look near, you have the appearance of closeness, does not mean that you're in touch with God.
Come on, say it again.
And sometimes it's the folks that we least expect to get blessings. It's the folks that we write off. It's the folks that we drive on past when they ask us if we got a little change and we know we got some money in our pocket. It's usually the folks that don't look like us, don't talk like us, don't come from homes and families like us that we write off. Those are the folks that sometimes are more in touch. Can I let you know I've had more sincere conversations with people who don't subscribe to Christianity than I have with some Christians? And I tell you, I found more love and acceptance in some folks from people who don't even think there's a God than I have with people who told me they've been in the church and walking with God for 20 plus years. Everybody who's touching God is not in touch with God. And can I let you know that miracles and blessings are reserved for the ones who are in touch? Yes. This is what I love, because I'm bringing this to a close. Corey, if you just play something for me real quick. I see something in this story that is so true to life. Is that if you really want to get some blessings, you've got to make room for interruptions. Amen. On that day, that woman had time for her life to be interrupted. And Jesus will always meet the interruptions, because what he wants to do when he interrupts, he wants to insert part of his power to help you in life. Jesus has to interrupt so that he can empower, because he knows, get this, some of you are facing some stuff that you can't get through on your own. Some of you have been let down too much. You've been hurt. You've been broken. You're struggling with depression. You could be struggling with suicidal thoughts. You want to just throw your hands up and give it up. And God says, look, I know that you thinking all this stuff, right, is going to take you under. He says, but sometimes I just need you to get a little creative with your faith. Sometimes I don't want you to look at the crowds. Don't look at what's around you. He says, look, if you can just keep your eyes on me, I'm going to interrupt at just the right time and empower you to give you what you need. He says, look, don't look at the barriers, because sometimes the barriers are your blessing. It's what I'm going to use to actually make sure that you and I connect. Sometimes our day, our schedule is too full, and we don't have time for interruptions. We place God in a box and we give him a deadline on when he's going to answer our prayers and when he's going to show up. Sometimes the biggest thing that you can do to show that you have faith is not always make moves. Sometimes you got to make room. You got to make room and let God be God. Because the moment you think you got him figured out, he ain't God anymore. He's always had an element of surprise to him. Can I tell you about an interruption real quick? You remember the story of Daniel, right? When they thought that they had him all figured out, they were going to put him in this lion's den. The lions were going to eat him as a snack, and that was going to be it. It was going to be cool. But you remember there was an angel that was sent down that shut the mouths of the lion. The king had his own plan, but there was an interruption. Can I tell you about another interruption, if you don't mind real quick, if you just got a little bit of time? What the Bible really tells us is that there was this boys, 3 of them to be exact, and that they didn't worship like everybody else did. They were not ashamed of their faith. And the king said, I'm just going to throw them in the fire. They're going to burn up. Ain't nobody going to ever hear about these boys again. But then he went after they were in the furnace, because sometimes God ain't going to save you from the fire. He going to meet you in the fire. And he didn't stop the fire. He just somehow took away its power and its heat. And then Nebuchadnezzar looked in there and said, whoa, hey, whoa. I put 3 in there, but I see a 4th one. In other words, the fire was supposed to consume them, but Jesus stepped on in and interrupted that thing real quick. You know, when they were in Exodus, right, in Egypt, and they were under these cruel slavery, they were being oppressed. And then all of a sudden they thought that it was lost. And then God says, look, I got a boy named Moses I'm going to send to y'all, and he going to interrupt this thing just like it is. But even if you don't get it in the Old Testament, there's this man named Jesus. When it seems that the world was going under, there was no justice. You couldn't even tell the difference between right and wrong. God could have sit down in heaven and gave commands, but he stepped in himself, became just like you and I. He put on flesh. He was stressed. He was hurt. He was betrayed. He was talked about. He came in just in the nick of time, interrupted that thing, lived a perfect life, and then he died for you and I. Y'all still ain't getting it. And just when you thought it was done, right, he was in the grave, and death was slapping high five with itself, saying this is all good. We finally got that man. He thought he played us. And then all of a sudden, it's kind of like the playoffs, right? There was an 0-1 start, day 1, 0-2 start. It looked like Jesus was down for the count, 0-3, but on that 3rd day, there was a rumbling. In other words, there was an interruption, and actually somebody stepped in. That rock was rolled away, and Jesus rolled up out that thing and said, y'all thought you had your boy. Sorry, but I had to step in for the interruption. I just came by to let you know, Sister Davis, ain't nothing changed. He's still the same God that will have some interruptions just so he can bless you. You didn't get it that way, so maybe if you're a basketball fan, you get it like this. I am a bandwagon Golden State Warriors fan. I ain't ashamed about it. I don't own not one single jersey, but that's my team. Can't tell me nothing. Steph Curry is my light-skinned cousin on my dad's side. That's my cousin. Remember Steph, that's my boy. I love his game. I love how he's so smooth. And so Steph was playing, and I remember, Golden State, they still gonna win that thing. We gonna pray about that thing tonight, all right? They still gonna come back from 3-2. Ain't no Chris Paul in game 6. Come on now, interruption. Somebody stay with the preacher now. It's an interruption called a hamstring. How many of you know he'll show up in the form of a hamstring sometime if you need him to? My man Steph got hurt. Get this, he had his a grade 2, I think, tear and meniscus, ACL, PCL, something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. And it looked like he was going to be out for the season. There were like no playoffs maybe. And Golden State started to kind of just like wild out a little bit. They started losing games they should have won. And then they were barely winning games they should have blown teams out. I said, man, isn't it just like that sometimes that you get these interruptions in the season? This is going to mess up a perfect season. We're trying to get this third ring. I'm trying to fake fly out to Cali and celebrate from my living room. And so Steph is out, they losing. KD, I don't know what KD was doing. He ain't been to the barbershop in a minute, but that's a different story. Clay was not being Clay. I didn't know what was going on. I said, man, we just not gonna win this thing. And get this, Steph returns. I remember I turned on that ESPN app, and it said that boy Steph is gonna play tonight. I just looked up to the heavens. I said, thank you, Lord. Get this, Steph came into the game, and it's back in Cali, and the crowd goes crazy. Sometimes that's all you need in life. It's just folks that support you and cheer for you. You got folks that's just gonna have your back. Right? I mean, the stadium goes crazy. Folks want question his doubt in his return. And that's what's so fickle about people sometimes. If you mess up, you got a couple hiccups, they want to erase everything you've ever done. They're like, you ain't never done nothing. Like, you ain't never accomplished nothing. Just because of one thing happened, you gonna write me off? Steph comes off in the game, and I love Steph. He be a little humble with it. So he got the ball, and that boy Steph can pull up from your backyard if he needs to and shoot the 3. And be at your mama's house and shoot in your yard. It don't even matter. The boy got range. So Steph got the ball, and I remember that first night he just give all praises to God, right? Run back down the court, got the ball again, came through. Ooh-wee. That's a bad boy, right? But that wasn't even that he came back. He gets in that little corner spot. He on the corner spot, then he give you a little fake, right, to get you off your feet, and he come back around, make you look stupid, and then he go again, and he just hit you with the fillet. Right, he just lay that thing up real nice. You don't really know how to guard him. And the boy Steph was like 3 for 3. He was going off. And I remember looking and saying to myself, he had been out for a minute, but ain't nothing changed. He was still the same old bad Steph, the same Curry that can light you up. And I just want to stop by real quick to let some folks know that feel like life is just too much for them right now. You find yourself in an impossible situation and you've gotten lost of track of Jesus because of the crowd. I just want to let you know in about 2 minutes real quick, ain't nothing changed. He's still the same God. He's still the God of the interruption. He's still going to speak to your situation. He'll still walk with you. Ain't nothing changed. I got a couple folks that know that he'll never leave them or forsake them. He's still that same God that you can call him. He will rescue you in the nick of time. He's going to be your sanity when you about to lose your mind. Ain't nothing changed. He's still the same God that holds death in the power of his hand. He's still the same God that can keep your family together, that can keep you together, that can make a way out of no way. He's still that same God that's going to use a generation of you to change this world. I don't care what labels you put on him. He's still the same God. I don't care what life serves you. I just want you to know, ain't nothing changed. Ain't nothing changed. I got 2 or 3 people that can stand up to their feet and testify. Ain't nothing changed. He's been faithful to you in spite of you. He's still working some things out. I get it. Life gets rough. I get it. Life gets hard. I know you might be confused. But when you feel like you're off, just remind yourself, ain't nothing changed. The same way he left this earth is the same way that he's going to come back. Death can't have him. Death can't hold him. He's still the same God. Ain't nothing changed. Will you just tell your neighbor, say, look, I know, I get it, but ain't nothing changed. Stick with the plan. He says, I know it's a little crazy right now, but just tell your neighbor, save some room for the interruption. Because ain't nothing changed. Don't give up now. Don't stop praying now. You done been through hell to get it. You might as well get you a little taste of that and see how God is going to work it out. Ain't nothing changed. He's still in control. You just got to make some room for the gonna take me to the next level. You gonna make my family whole. You gonna make me whole. You gonna take disease out of my body. Interrupt me, God. If you gonna make some change through me, I need the interruption. I got some folks that's gonna make room. If you gonna make room, just look at your neighbor, put your elbows out and say, move. I'm just making room. I'm just making a little room. Get this. A little room is all Jesus needs to do his thing. If he can make something out of nothing, just imagine what he'll do with a little room. He just need a little room. Even if your faith ain't even fully function, you still wrestling with doubt and trying to believe at the same time. Let's give him a little room. A little room. You just need a little corner. Just need the door unlocked for him. He know how to get in. Just leave a little room for him to do something in your life. I just came by to tell you today, just make some room for the interruption. Praise him. You just lead us in some worship. God got some worship for us, a song. You're going to make room for a little interruption today for God to just move. I want you to take all your troubles, everything that you brought with you today, and just push it on over to the side and make some room for the Lord today. Amen. Amen. Father in heaven, God, there is no one like you. God, thank you that you reminded us through this story that, Lord, you walk with us. That, God, sometimes blessings will come in the form of barriers. Sometimes they're disguised. But Lord, you're always working things out. God, thank you that you're never too busy to hear us. And right now, I just want to pray over those who feel like they've been left out. Those who feel invisible. Who feel ignored. Their struggle has gotten the best of them. God, would you just inspire them right now? Would you just encourage them? Would you speak life to some dead situations right now, God? I ask that you would begin to break some chains today, too. God, we want to make room for what you're doing. Some of us, our lives are just too full. We have too much on our plate. Show us how to make room. God, we are a group of individuals who just say, Lord, we are awaiting the interruption. We don't want to just touch you. We want to be in touch with you. Oh God, keep us faithful to that. Even after this preacher moment and real life hits, may we still make room for your interruption. Amen. Amen.
Good afternoon, happy Sabbath.